Warning, this episode contains adult language and adult humor. Since when have trumpet players ever been considered adults? If you are easily offended by these types of conversations, consider switching to the oboe. Welcome to the Trumpet Gurus Hang. I'm your host, Jose Johnson, and our guest today has to be one of the happiest guys I've ever known, the one and only Trent Austin. Trent has been described as a Renaissance man, but don't say that too loud around him. He's a gifted trumpet player, an educator, a mouthpiece designer, and a great salesman, and I say that in the best way possible. Trent is as quick with a smile and a joke as he is on rhythm changes, and he is one of the most genuine people you will ever meet. So pour yourself a big glass, pull up a chair, and let the hang begin. All right, my guest for this week's episode is the one and only Mr. Trent Austin. What's going on, Trent?
Not much. How you doing, brother?
Woo, man. You know, I like most of us, we are just doing it day by day. So yeah. I'm so glad to have you here because if there's one person that can make me smile, it's always you.
Oh, thanks, man. Hopefully it's not cry. So,
so it's usually, tears from jealousy, man. When I hear you play, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's, he's got it all. How can one person be so blessed and so lucky?
Smoke and mirrors. Lots of smoke and mirrors for sure.
Hey, trumpet player's best friend. So anyway, I just wanted to jump into the hang here, and I see you got your tea, and I've got today. Yep. I'm doing a little bit of rum because I'm imagining that I'm at a beach somewhere.
That's right.
Anywhere but my living room. But
our living rooms are getting smaller and smaller by the day. It's like I was talking to my wife last night, and it takes you back to like when we first got married. We had maybe a 500 square foot apartment.
Yeah.
It was just Boston. It was one of those things that was like, this is all we could afford. And I was like, man, I think we would have killed each other by then. If we were living there, my hat goes out to anybody who has a small place. One of my friends who lives in Boston, she's like, how am I supposed to do it? And I sent her a link to one of my guilty pleasure purchases, which is a great pair of noise canceling headphones. And I said, get those because you will thank me because it cuts out all the noise. And it's not, it's not that people grate on each other, but it's just the fact that sometimes you just need that peace. And the fact that I could put those headphones on now and just listen to an album, which another luxury of being in this universe is the fact that nobody listens to albums anymore anyway.
Right.
It's like, oh, I listened to this clip on YouTube and this clip on YouTube and this off Spotify. And now I've been just taking time to like turn on an album, either turntable or through my headphones and just sort of a meditation, but more just like it reminds you of all the good that was going on prior to maybe a few months ago, because it will come back for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, we kind of got into this fast-paced life. We're just, do, and with the music, so much of it, the streaming, and you pop down a track, and I just remember as a kid, definitely, the experience of listening to music, where you would get the album, and I remember taking the shrink wrap off and reading the liner notes. And
we are dating ourselves a little bit there, so we might not want to go any further because
I crank up the old Victrola,
what was that game that you played with the cans and the string telephone or whatever? You mentioned something right there that's funny because it's like I think this is going to be another plus from all of this. In the world of like everything was prime, and I own my own business, so it's like everybody wanted stuff like instantaneously.
Right.
And it is an instantaneous world that's like we want to do all these things quickly, yet a lot of things take time. And I think a couple days ago, my wife was going to order something on Amazon. We try not to order on Amazon just because, we want to support small business, but we can't get anywhere. So it's like now if the small businesses don't ship, so she was ordering something and it was April 10th, I think she ordered, and they said estimated delivery May 10th. And it's like,
wow.
and now we're not really in the boons, we're
Right.
only 10 minutes from Kansas City. So it's not like we're not like in the middle of nowhere, but that was one way. It was like a real shock because everything's like prime.
Yeah.
Get it now, or you get it in a day, or they can send a drone and they'll drop your food in 2 hours. Now it's like, maybe this is a blessing in disguise because you can have patience on things because everybody's in a hurry. We're all in this hurry to do everything, be it that thing, be it the health thing, be it anything. We're in such a hurry to get stuff done. We cannot take a step back and just, okay, where are we? What are we doing? Let's evaluate what's going on. Let's try to figure this out. Let's take some time. So yeah. I've got to think about it that way. I think for me, I'm trying to be a glass is half full guy. I noticed your glass was not half full, so you need to work on that.
Yeah, it was full at one point, and it's half full right now.
Oh man, that's we're all doing the countdown. So my Casker's order is not here yet. So
oh man,
I've got surplus, and in every regard to my life, there's surplus, which I'm very, very lucky for. It was funny. I was talking to your friend Terry this morning, and I said to Terry, because Terry's talking about making planting a garden, which is a great idea, of course. And I said, Terry, this is the one time in my life that I'm actually happy that I have that surplus. So it's like I've got a few months on me. We'll just chill. So
you're built for survival.
I don't know about that. Well, number one in Zombieland is cardio. So
well, that's true too. But you know what? That's one of the things I always loved about you, Trent, is that you always kind of exuded this optimistic side. Like your viewpoint seemed to be like, hey, let's have fun with this. Let's find the good in it, and I think it served you really well. So kudos to you for that, man.
Fingers crossed. What else can you do? And this is where the danger lies, being at home, where you could do two things, I think, that are very bad. There's so many other things you could do that be very good.
Yeah.
Read a book, meditate, exercise, practice. But we go to other things maybe instead. We go to, Fox News, CNN, whatever you watch for your media outlet. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care. That's
Tiger King.
Yeah, I can't get there yet. So
and yeah, me either. I'm not there yet.
My friends are texting me saying, "No, Tiger King," and I was like, "Dude, I just finished Peaky Blinders. Let me watch something cool."
Hey, I used to live down in Tennessee. I had my fill of redneck, goofy people down there. So
it's just down the block now.
Yeah.
Being a guy from New England, it's like a kind of a shock, and it's a wonderful thing. But we were rednecks in Maine, so don't get me wrong. Uncle Dad moved right down the street. Okay, sorry. But I think the one of the things I see, and I even see myself doing it, and just the past few days, I've decided not to really watch the news. I'm not ignoring the news. Like, I do find my sources of news that I trust. But I'm not like going onto that network all the time and going, oh, the world is going to end.
Right.
Okay. Then the second thing I don't do is like, you go on Facebook, or I call it soapbox book now.
Yeah.
Where everybody is not only a CDC specialist, but they're also in politics. They're, in office. They're serving their community, of course, because that's their stance. I feel like maybe one of these things, if the world does truly change and maybe things like my business doesn't survive, then definitely what I will do is put my life towards public service in some way. I don't know what that will be. I don't know how that will be. Maybe it's a better thing to do anyways. I don't know. Nobody really knows, the long-term thing ramifications. But back to the original point, it's like if I only stayed in that box of MSNBC, Fox News, CNBC, I don't care, whatever they want to call themselves, and then Facebook, and there's a lot of good on Facebook too, don't get me wrong. But I'm trying to snooze anybody who does political things. I don't care their party. I don't, because it's like we need to lift everyone up in a moment like this, where everybody's depressed. I mean, I don't care how strong you are mentally, how strong you are, you know, how good your support system is. Everybody's got it. I mean, it's like almost like a PTSD moment's going to happen if we're indoors or not able to like make music with friends, or, you know, hang with people or work out with friends and things like this, things that our lives are built on. What's going to happen? And so I choose to do the opposite. Like, I'm trying to record myself every day. I'm trying to post some stuff online. I always post pictures of my dogs. Okay. My dogs have the best attitude in life. One, you walk into the house after a long day. You might have had the worst shitty day, pardon me. I'll break that ice right there.
There you go.
You might have had a terrible day. That dog looks at you and is like, man, I've been like waiting for you to come home. This is the best moment of my day. And it reminds you that, hey, that's a good attitude. Just like before you take them for a walk, they take the time to stretch. They take the time to, you know, prepare themselves for what they're about to do. Now that could be turned into this, or it could be turned into a practicality of, you know, real life. I mean, you know, so, but that's what I choose to do.
But just try not to sniff other people's butts. That's probably the one thing that you want to try to avoid as much as possible.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And honestly, if that's the way you want to be, of course, you know, people are mad, they're frustrated, they're upset. I feel like I don't know enough on the full spectrum of the whole side of things to be upset. I mean, I'm sad. I'm very upset I can't hang with my staff. I love my guys, and I can't work with customers. Like, I'm sure you feel the same way with what you do. It's like, you know, we're both involved with enriching people's lives. And it's like the fact that you can't do that, that's the worst part. Literally, monetary, whatever. I mean, whatever. I mean, money is money. You don't take it with you when you enter the coffin or get cremated. It's like, but that's that feeling of, worth. What's your feeling of worth? And how do you build that feeling of worth and the way you can give to other people during a time like this?
Yeah. Well, in general, that attitude, I think, is very much a part of what makes a musician or any other artist so driven. Is, if you're in it for the money, this probably is not the thing that you want to do, particularly being a trumpet player. But, it's that desire to make a difference, to, through your music, to touch people's lives, through your teaching, to encourage and inspire a new generation of people. That's the stuff. That's your legacy. The houses, those are going to go away. But, if you think about the people that have been instrumental in your development. I know one of the people that you talk about a lot is somebody that I love, Clark Terry.
Oh, good.
I think, and I think that you remind me of CT in so many ways. But it's I always tell people, especially younger players who have never heard him, I'm like, you got to listen to him. Not only is the guy just got chops out the wazoo, but to me, he was the epitome of an artist in that I believe that an artist's job is to take what they're thinking and feeling and express it in a way that is replicated in other people. So you're just, if you're happy, you want them to be happy. If you're sad, you want to be sad. And Clark, his playing matched his personality 100%.
Yeah. I mean, it's a direct connection. And, it's like one of the things, thank you for that compliment. I will never, ever be remotely close. Clark's my hero. So it's like, Clark is definitely the best trumpet. I've hung with a lot of great trumpet players. I've been very lucky to do that. I'm sure you have as well. And I've studied with a lot of great trumpet players. Clark's the best trumpet player I've ever met. I mean, if he wanted to be like, virtuoso, classical musician, he could have done it because he had the best embouchure you'll ever see. That's what I tell all my students is just watch him play. Just watch him play. He enters a world that's not in the present, in sort of a physical sense. It's almost like he's just transcending through the instrument. It's uncanny. But the thing about Clark, and he was the best man I've ever met too. Literally what he would have done for me, he did so much. And I know he did so much for so many people. The person that reminds me the most in our world right now is Wynton. I mean, there's so many things that Wynton does to help people that nobody knows. And there's so much, I mean, he is the face of an entire music, good or bad. I don't care if you don't like him, that's fine. It doesn't matter. What he is this space of a vision, and he's lived his vision. I mean, it's amazing. Right. But Clark was that. But the thing I loved about Clark, and we get so serious, especially now, it's even more of a challenge in some ways when you're on this thing and you're playing it and playing it and playing and playing and playing. You're going to get this. Maybe we'll all be coming out of this as like this ridiculous technical mofos that are going to scare the world, but we're going to forget the principle of what we do. And you said artist, and I think artist is a perfect word. I'm going to take it one step further, and it's like entertainer. We're still entertaining. You walk into a concert with like Oscar Peterson or Clark Terry or Eric Clapton, or you name like an elite level artist.
Right. Yeah.
Like they broke the mold for these people. You walk into one of their performing spaces. Now it could be everyday Yo-Yo Ma's playing something. I mean, and it's like those are maybe 3 of the best minutes you'll get every day just by watching him in front of his bookcase playing. But he's giving you something. The thing that great entertainers do is they make you forget about what's happening in your world, and they hopefully, we can hope, leave you positive and for a worst term, jazzed up, but like excited post-concert, where they're feeling like there's this level of joy, exuberance. You want to run to your instrument and practice, or you're just so like the weight of daily life has been lifted. And that's what Clark did that I find very few people do. And one of the missions in my life, even though I'll never do it and never get there again, is to be able to enrich people the way he did for me. So thank you. Yeah. And if you've never seen Clark Terry play, there's a literal smorgasbord of ridiculousness on YouTube now. That's the scary thing. We're locked into our basements practicing, but here's the thing. There's so much out there that you can click on, you can learn, and then you pick up your horn and you say, oh, I can play that solo. It doesn't sound that hard. And play his solo to, Oscar Peterson Trio +1. He plays Mac the Knife, where he does what does he do? Hold on. Let me turn my talking mic off for a second. Oh, no, that's the wrong mic. Oops. It's like this stuff I haven't warmed up. So it's like, but 16 times in a row. Perfect.
Right.
So,
I just loved watching, and again, I'm giving away my age, but I remember watching him on the Tonight Show so many times.
Right.
And just it was always inspiring as a player, but just the joy that you heard in his sound, his phrasing, the smiles that he could have when he wasn't playing. It was just,
he loved life. I mean, it's very clear that he loved life. It's like this sort of, it's just, that's the way we should be. You can half empty, half full. I'm not saying there are times in my day that I'm definitely half empty. I mean, if you talk to my wife upstairs, she'd be like, man, you're totally empty right now. But that's still the reminder of like, hey, one, pay it forward, because he never charged me once for any lesson I ever took with him. Never. Sometimes I had to pay him in a bottle of dry sack, which was, I don't know if you know what dry sack is. Do you know what dry sack is?
No, I do not.
It's awful. First and foremost, it's like a dry sherry.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
so what, like, eventually his diabetes got so bad you couldn't do that for him. But when I first started hanging with him, he goes, "Okay, kid," and I wasn't even old enough to buy booze. My lesson fee was a bottle of dry sack. Now he gave you 2 cups, and he poured your cup, then he poured his cup, and I nursed that cup the entire night because I was like, I do not want to get a refill of this.
Right.
It's awful. But that was his drink. So I think I still at the shop, I still have a bottle of dry sack just there. So
Well, yeah, that's funny. One of my martial arts teachers actually, he was we were at a event somewhere, and he's like, "Hey, I want you to come up to my room." We were more like almost like compatriots. We were
Sure.
both teachers, but he wanted to share some information with me, and he's like, "Come on up to my room. I'm going to teach you something that I don't teach a whole lot of people." And he goes, "I'm going to teach you the most important lesson too." I'm like, "Okay." Well, he shows me the stuff, and then he's like, "Okay, here's the most important lesson." His students brought in a bottle of Wild Turkey 101.
Oh yeah.
He said, "Never charge money, but always get a drink." So,
And it's funny though, I had lessons with Bobby Shue, and I did pay Bobby, I remember, but I do remember him. I didn't bring any booze for him, but I do remember back in the day, Bobby drank in one lesson like 2 or 3 bottles of wine. Fairly impressive, actually. So,
yeah, well,
but
hey, you got to do what you got to do. I mean,
I'm not condoning this, folks.
yeah.
I'm not condoning this.
My trumpet professors actually, a lot of times they would have to do hard narcotics during my lessons just to get through it. It was they were so bad, so that's the only way they were going to survive. So
when I joined my first road band when I was like 18. I was like it was freshman year of college, and I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I definitely didn't do any of the other stuff, which I still thankfully I don't do. And I just remember there were distinct levels of the bus. You walk in the front of the bus, they were the cigar smokers, okay, which is a terrible place for a cigar smoker.
Yeah.
And although I don't mind cigars, but just if you're not a cigar person,
right.
So then you walk like a few rows in, then there was the raging alcoholics. In other words, it's 7 a.m. We're leaving. We're doing 400-mile trip to the next town. And the moment the bus door closes, you hear, shh. So there's those guys. Then you had the herb people, we'll call them, the herbivores.
Yeah.
Then in the further back, you had real hard stuff. There was still hard stuff going on. This was the 90s, I guess. So
right.
To the point where like we were crossing the border once in Canada, and we had to like flush everything down the toilet, sort of stuff. Like, yeah, not me though. I was sitting near the smokers and right before the boozers, and got my headphones on, and I'm transcribing Freddie Hubbard. So
that was your drug of choice. Freddie's a good drug of choice. So we talked about earlier. You're originally from New England, and now you're out in the Midwest. So what created this transition for you?
My wife works in the government, and I could tell you what she does, but then I'd have to kill you. No, I'm kidding. She actually is an archivist, and there was a couple reasons. One, I'm very fortunate that my shop has grown to the point where we could basically be anywhere because we're mostly mail order. And Boston's an extremely expensive city, first and foremost.
Yeah.
It's kind of an overpriced city. As much as I love it, it's just overpriced. So there was that. And we had skimped and saved, and we bought a place that was as close as that we could be for my wife's work. And some days it would take her 2 hours each way to commute. So we were like, this is crazy. This is not a way of living. It really isn't. So we started examining like other areas, but I wanted her to stay where she is. And she's an archivist in a presidential library. And the Truman Library came up, and I was like, Kansas City? Kansas City. I remember going, playing here back. I played with Natalie Cole in Kansas City like long time ago, and long time ago. I remember they were like, don't leave your hotel room. It was a really, really rough town. And there's still places in the town that are quite rough. But when we came down like 3 or 4 years ago to look at the city, I fell in love because there's so much music, so much great food. People are really warm, nice, kind. I mean, it's welcome breath of air, versus like the people in the cities like New York and Boston. Although times like now will change that, where people realize that, hey, slow down. I can have some respect for these people and their spaces. So one of the things that we decided was to move. So her commute went from at least an hour each way, if not more, for 13 miles, by the way. It's not like it's not like
right.
a 50-mile drive.
Right.
It was 13 miles. And now her commute's 9 minutes. Well, now all of our commutes are 0.
Yeah, that's true.
But she's working upstairs. She's in charge of the Harry S. Truman YouTube channel. So if you ever and it had nothing. So one of the cool things what she does is she's really into modernization of libraries. And this library, which is getting completely overdone, was very much stuck into 1975 or 1980, just because that was where it was.
Right.
Now it's getting to be it's going to be reopened in the fall, and it's going to be all new and all modern. And so that's really cool. So that's the reason why we moved. And I'm very, very thankful for moving, although I miss my friends. I miss my family. I miss seafood like mad. Barbecue's great here. Barbecue is really great here. It's a little too great. Yeah. But I miss those parts. I miss the ocean. I miss the ability to and we lived like a mile from the ocean, and I could see it on one of our morning walks with our dogs, but I never really, really enjoyed it. But then when you're out in the Midwest, you don't see it. But I'm fortunate, because if I had my business and my house and my mortgage still at the Boston prices, I don't know. I honestly don't know if we would have been. I mean, still too early to tell, but so far we're okay.
Yeah.
It's just there wouldn't be no way. Because
right.
My rent here for my shop is 35% of the cost. And I have dear friends that have shops in bigger cities, LA or New York or, like Atlanta. And I'm like, man, and they're like, yeah, we don't know. Of course, we all don't know. But I'm very thankful for the fact that, we are here now. Yeah. Although a little scared because my folks are still far away. Not that I can see them anyways, but now it's like if something happens. So anyways, sorry, that was a little darkness.
No, that's okay. That's all right. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you the question, chowder or barbecue?
Barbecue. But lobster. And so when I was a kid, my grandfather, who's still alive, actually, he's 94 or 95, the oldest resident in his town in Maine, up to about 4 years ago, was still pulling traps.
Really?
Oh, hard ass, total hard ass.
Nice.
But, so we used to have lobster all the time, and I actually didn't like it because it was like, oh, lobster.
Right.
In the original charter for the state of Massachusetts, I don't know if you know this, they said for the prisoners, give them lobster because it's plentiful and nobody wants to eat that.
And now
that's a little bit different when you're paying $25 a pound or whatever craziness.
Yeah, exactly.
But there is a Red Lobster right down the street. But don't worry, we're not.
We're not going to go there.
We ain't going there. So
that's not real lobster. So speaking of the shop, you've obviously you cut your teeth as a player, doing a lot of road stuff and stuff. So what got you into selling?
Well, one thing happened in high school. I'll tell you a quick little side story. My dad's an engineer. He's brilliant. He, when he was in college, he built a car out of spare parts. He just sort of assembled, it was like a 39 Dodge, I think, or something. He'll probably correct me, or 33 Dodge. Either way, but he's a brilliant dude. And I was practicing and I dropped my mouthpiece and the end shank got all crushed. So he's like, oh man, we could fix that. Let's just take a reamer and and all of a sudden we had a short shank mouthpiece and it played a lot better. And I was like, it's cool. So I started doing that for my friends in high school back in the day. But then I went to music school, then I started gigging, and then I quickly, well, not quickly, 5-6 years into it, I was like, I gotta do something else. I love gigging. I love making music, but I hate being away from home. Just, like Clark told me in the height of his teaching, he would do 300 days on the road a year.
Wow.
300. Ooh, that's a lot of holiday ends and days ends. So it's like, so one of the things I've always, like I said, I've always been a gearhead. Even in high school, I would like weld trumpets together and, like take things out of the band room and fix them. Although I have very poor like mechanical aptitude, really, quite honestly. One thing I do love is being outgoing and people person, but also using the ears to help people, improve their fun level. That's more than anything, is make the torture tube fun, because there are times, everybody goes, well, there are days that are not fun. I have fun almost every day on the trumpet. It's like, it really is. And it's very meditative to me. So the company that I play Adams Instruments, and I was an artist for them as a performing artist. I ended up working a trade show, Midwest. It's out in Chicago. I know that's how we met, is that we were hanging at one of the trumpet shows, maybe ITG.
Yeah, it's the ITG. Yeah.
So I was working that show for Adams, and other than them selling my horn to me, I don't think they had sold a horn in the United States. And I think that show I sold like 6 horns for them. And they were like, oh, you're kind of good at this. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It's like, this is fun. And they're like, we want to help you. And I was like, nah. No, I said, if you open your shop, we'll give you exclusive of our brass. Now, their percussion side of Adams is huge. Timpani, marimba, things of that. And they're distributed through my friends at Pearl Percussion. Great company. Awesome company. Brass is still direct to dealer from the factory. So there's no U.S. distributor or anything like that. So I was the only way you could get an Adams for a few years. And so that actually just sort of springboarded my company. While doing that, I had interest in designing and making mouthpieces. I got really into CAD software, which is the drawing part of the mouthpiece, and started doing a lot of designs. I told you a few minutes ago, I'm not really mechanically inclined. I started making mouthpieces on a small metal lathe, and they were okay. Then I sent out stuff to a few machinists to make for me. In fact, a mutual friend, Terry, makes some of our mouthpieces for us. Mm-hmm. But that's how the shop sort of started, I guess,
Yeah. Well, it's, I find it interesting. I know that your website lists you as being a Renaissance man, which
I didn't write that. And then I did another podcast recently, and I said, "Oh, my bio writer," and that was like the worst mistake of my life. These guys for a half hour just kept on pounding that, beating me up.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, I have that tag as well. Because of the things that I do, so many different things. But yeah, it really makes sense because you obviously have the skills as a performer. You have the skills as an educator, and having the shop and promoting the mechanical side and developing your own stuff. I mean, it just absolutely makes sense. So I definitely can understand why that's part of you.
I don't know if I don't know. Honestly, it's like, that's the other thing that's been kind of, for me, it's been fun a little bit. Although, I definitely don't like not being able to work. Mm-hmm. But I've really enjoyed practicing again. And I haven't practiced as much in a long time. And it's like to the point where like, oh, the trumpet feels kind of good. Like, what's going on? And people watching the videos I post, they're like, wow, you sound really good. And I'm like, it's because I'm practicing again, I guess. I mean, it's not rocket science. That's the good thing. I picked the trumpet because it had 3 valves. Couldn't be that challenging, right?
Yeah, I made the exact same mistake.
Well, first I wanted to play drums.
Same here.
Play drums, and my dad was like, "No, the drums are way too loud." And then I wanted to play saxophone, but the saxophone was too expensive in the rental. So then I went to trumpet.
Yeah.
Trumpet scared me. I was like, man, that thing is weird. But
Yeah. My story was I wanted to play drums. My dad was a well, he was a minister at the time, but he was originally a musician. And he's like, no, I want you to play a real musical instrument. So that's where I got my
damn.
So exactly. But then I wanted to play sax, but there's too many keys. The trombone, I couldn't figure out where the hell the notes were, and I was like, trumpet, 3 notes, 3 keys.
How hard can it be? How hard can it be? I mean, to the point where you get a 4 valve and you're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? I don't know what's going on.
But it's it is a challenging instrument, and but to me, regardless of whether it's trumpet or piano, or anything, graphic arts, writing, whatever you're doing, to reach any level of skill takes a commitment, and there's always going to be those times that are not the most fun, but like you said, you have the ability to make it fun. That there's a quote that there's a guy that I follow, a business guy, Ed Milet, and he talks about being comfortably uncomfortable. So actually he calls it blissfully dissatisfied.
Yeah, that's a great term. I mean, I absolutely, like this whole thing about like what you're talking about, it's like when people, you have to have that. You have to have that anxiousness. That's one of the things that I'm truly confident that will survive. Like my company will survive. And it might change, the scope of the company might change, of course, but we'll still be fine. The reason for that is I think we're highly adaptable, and we're willing to be on that. You're staring and there's a cliff straight down. And you're like, oh, and you're willing to dangle your foot to know that you're still safe. You're still safe. So because we sort of pivoted away from the typical school band rental model of a music store. We're more of a pro shop, and we're very specialized. I mean, we don't do. You take the whole world of musical instruments, guitars, drums, piano, and bass. Take those. That's 50% of your market. Right. Then you add the strings and things like that, and we get to the trumpet, and it's like 3 or 4 or 5% max. Yeah. It can't be more than 5%. It's probably more between 2 and 3% of the overall marketplace. Of that, I'm trying to fight with all the other competitors, just like people who are gigging musicians are now in the pool fighting with all the other musicians. The thing that you have to quickly realize is like, how do you stand out so people, one, trust you, which hopefully, I think that's one of the big things that I will tell anybody. We're very transparent, but people, I think it's all about trust. They believe what we say, and we are not people that BS and sugarcoat. I'm sorry. There's too many of those people in our industry, right? That unfortunately, and they take advantage of those people. But 2 is that everybody in my shop is a great musician. So while that doesn't necessarily lend them to being better salespeople, when they're on the phone or when they're talking to a customer, the customer hopefully will believe them because they have real world experience.
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right with that, because they there's the old saying about your chops will get you the gig, but it's your personality and work ethic that'll keep it for you. It's the same thing with the business side of things, like with sales, that you can have really great product. You can have the best prices, whatever, but what's going to keep your customer is the quality of care that you provide for them. When you develop that really good relationship where they know they can trust you, and that you're not going to bullshit them, and that's.
I don't have time for bullshit. I mean, I honestly don't. So it's like, because I'll take one product in my line that that I know, and it's our top selling line. It's made in China, and we tell people. They go, well, this horn is $600. How can you sell it for $600? And I'm like, well, okay, we get it from China and it's much lower labor cost. Would we rather sell American or European or products? Of course. but we're providing a service for people that might not be able to get it. And it's a good product. And I know the same exact thing that's branded 3 or 4 or 5 different, well, it's actually not the same because then we work on the horn. But it's a similar, it's made by the same factory, but they tend to leave the problems from that instrument into it. And they sell it for 2, 3, 4 times as much. And it's like, hey, my biggest thing is when I put my head on the pillow, I sleep pretty well in general, because I don't want to feel like I am the guy that's, you know, putting the clear coat undercoat on your car. If you know the reference from Fargo,
Yeah.
Don't, you know, you should. So, but we're not that, and we'll never be that. I'm sorry. So people say to me like, well, you know, what's the big deal about your mouthpieces? And I was like, well, this is the concept that I have. This is the way I present them. Well, but you got to have a selling point. You got to have like a pitch or a hook. I'm like, okay. I mean, I could tell you what every percentage point of any radius in my side the mouthpiece, but I don't feel like you need that. I feel like you do. There are certain things that you do need to know, but that's why we guide you through them and we help you with them, and we don't charge for consultations and things like that. It's like, I just don't, you've taken the effort to, one, either call us or set foot in our shop. And that in itself is like the most marketable commodity that anybody has. The biggest commodity is their time. And you just dedicated your time to us. We're going to hopefully serve you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great attitude to have. You mentioned earlier that your dad was an engineer.
Yep.
Any musicians in your family?
Not really. My dad didn't play at all. My grandmother, she played violin and piano. My mom didn't really play an instrument, but she sang. And I believe my mom has like good pitch recollection, not necessarily perfect, but really solid relative pitch. My sisters both played. So we were in that generation, you know, where we were, you know, in the band program. And fortunately for us, our band program where we grew up, because it was Central Maine, there was really nothing else. The band program was very popular. My oldest sister played the clarinet, and she was fine, but she, you know, didn't take music as a profession, although, you know, she's very promotive to her daughter, who's singing and acting and playing clarinet and piano. And my middle sister, my older sister, was a very skilled musician, but, you know, she's now kind of on the front lines. She's works for the VA and is doing amazing work, especially now. It's like one of those things. It's like, that's another thing. You like kind of look at yourself and you go, man, you know, it's cool that I own my shop, but these people are doing stuff that's changing the world. Yeah. You know, they're saving people's lives. It's like, it's one of those things that you start saying, well, man, maybe I haven't really invested myself to the point where I can make the world a better place. And these people, like my sister, are truly making the world a better place because she's saving lives. I mean, it's like, what?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you on that, Trent, because like my wife is a nurse, and so she's on the front line, and so yeah, I mean, it's dealing with that stress, and I just recently got out of the hospital. I had some surgery that I had to go through, and it was interesting for me to be there and to see firsthand what the nurses were doing for me, to have her come into the hospital when she wasn't working to take care of me, and knowing the dynamics and knowing how that transitions into home life and all that stuff. Right. So it gave me a whole new appreciation of what you did. Yeah. However, and I go through this as well with the stuff that I do. And sometimes I doubt myself and I doubt my contribution to the world. And I feel like, there's something inside me that wants to make a huge change. But, it's like, but I still had the part of me that says, well, the way you do it is you do it one life at a time. Right.
Well, of course.
But what I'll say to you,
life, of course.
Yeah,
I know where you're going.
But what I'll say to you is that particularly now, I think this has become very, very clear, is that what people are relying on. Obviously, we got our first responders, the hospital people, and even the grocery store people. Have a whole new respect for that. But artists, what are people relying on to get them through this time? They're relying on artists, they're relying on musicians, they're relying on actors and authors and things like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't take, when you have that vision of wanting to make the world a better place, sometimes it's easy to miss the impact that what you do has on people. So,
well, I had this conversation with a friend yesterday on Facebook. He was really, he's a trumpet player in New Orleans, and it's like, he's struggling. I told him, I was like, dude, we're all struggling. But I was like, and he's like, oh, I don't have the gear to record. I don't have the setup. I was like, you know what, dude? You post a video on your phone and that will brighten, I guarantee you, way more people than you'll ever think. Even if it brightens one person's life, you might have for 3 minutes taken them away from the chaos. And then if you really need something, what you need to do is make yourself a big ass mouthpiece. So when the zombies come, you're ready. You can crush them. That was the birthday gift from my employees to me.
Very nice.
How cool is that? And it has my logo. I don't know if you can see that.
I can see that.
And the cup and the backboard.
Are they saying that your ego is so large that you need to have a mouthpiece that big to be
okay,
able to
now you got to take it there. So.
No, that's right. When the zombie,
HR?
yeah.
HR. Wait,
when the zombie apocalypse comes, I want to make sure I'm behind the trombone players.
But in front of the horses.
That's true. Very true. All right. Well, I'm going to do something here with you, Trent. I don't know if you've ever done anything out of the Nagel speed studies. That was a book that I
remember that book.
Yeah, those crazy fingering things.
Sure.
So we're going to have our own version of Nagel speed studies. This is going to be a speed round.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw out just like with speed studies, you don't know where they're going next. So
you gotta be really careful here now. So.
Well, that's true. So I'm just going to throw out some questions to you, and they're going to be all over the place. Give me your quickest answer.
Okay.
First one, biggest influence on your life that is not a trumpet player.
Oh, that's not a trumpet player. Dave Ramsey, maybe?
Okay. Very cool. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book. That is a challenge.
Don't say Arbans.
I love, and I read it all the time. The great thing about it, it's not really a book. It's Miles's autobiography. Quincy Troop book. I love that book because you can literally just open it up anytime and you can read it, and it's just like you jump into his life, and it makes you feel really normal.
Yeah, exactly. What's the worst movie you've ever seen?
Cabin Boy. That's an easy one.
Okay.
Chris Elliott. Don't watch it.
I will not watch it. If you weren't a trumpet player, what would you want to do?
I really would love to be a pilot, but I can't see. I wanted to play baseball when I was young, and I met Ted Williams when I was in high school. It was like all these things, but this body is not a baseball body. Maybe 35 years ago, but not today with all the amazing athletes. But yeah, but I would actually try to probably be into sports in some way, either be like maybe broadcasting or just working at the park. I think it'd be cool. Like a couple of years ago, my wife, who's an archivist, was not interviewed, but she saw there was a job posting to be the Red Sox archivist. I was like, oh my God. I was like, you have to do that, but no. So.
Okay. Favorite drink?
Oh, we're talking alcoholic?
Anything.
Okay. Non-alcoholic peanut butter milkshake. That's a solid. Coffee. I'm very particular about my coffee because I would not survive otherwise. There's a great company in Ann Arbor, Michigan, who actually I got one of the ways to relate to customers from. It's called Ruse Roost, and the thing that I will say, this is a tip for any business people out there. We bought a $20 order of coffee one day, and they sent a handwritten thank you card. And I'm sitting there drinking my coffee, and it's the best coffee. Really, it's fantastic. It's a French roast. And I'm like, this is a tiny little order. Now we sell, you buy an Adams 6-quart tuba, it's $25,000. Thank goodness we play trumpet. But I'm thinking, why are we so lazy? So every order, you buy a $5 bottle of valve oil, there's a handwritten card in that box. Because it's something that, I mean, and we actually have a whole bunch of technological advancements in that regard as well that I know a lot of other companies don't do, but still, it's that tangible thing that you can touch, you can read, you take the time to do it. It takes 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's stupid not to. My favorite drink, and thank goodness for this. I'm a huge fan of good Irish whiskey or bourbon. So.
Very good, very good. All right, you could have a dinner party.
Yep.
With any three people alive today. Who would those people be?
Elon Musk, Michael Jordan, Barack Obama.
Okay, that would be an interesting dinner party.
You better believe it. So
yeah, I think Obama and MJ would probably be dueling it out on the court. So
I don't know. I mean, it's like I think Obama now is pretty chill. So
yeah. All right, so
he earned it. Well, that's what he did. So
let's do the same party, but any three people from history.
Oh man. Whoa. Can Beethoven hear?
That's a good question.
So if not, Bach, Charlie Parker, and probably Gandhi. And for real. So
yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. It's kind of an easy one, but
yeah. Okay. All right. Lacquer, plated, or raw?
If your maker is good, it doesn't matter. And with today's modern technologies, it matters less. For me, this is an easy one for me because I don't know if you could see if I can get it. Oh no, it's a little blurry, but I was playing this mouthpiece. This is actually one of Clark's mouthpieces, by the way, which is pretty cool. That he gave me like 20 years ago or something. That's a silver-plated mouthpiece, but I'm allergic to silver and gold. It's kind of a rare combination. A lot of people are allergic to silver, but not gold.
Right.
And how I realize that is like on my lip, it feels like when you burn your tongue on a hot beverage. That's how it feels when I play a silver mouthpiece. So it'll get red. I used to wear a gold watch, and just the head, the face, we'll say, was gold. And then I take the watch off and I'd have a bump. So I don't know if it's contact dermatitis, but I've actually been tested and they said I have a intolerance. So such a great way of saying you're allergic, dude.
Yeah.
But
you're intolerant. I've always thought that about you, Trent.
Yeah. Oh, in many ways. Right? So this horn, for instance, which is my primary horn, it's called Copernicus. You got to have a name for your horn, by the way. Now it could be like my friend John Kratzer calls his horn the sugar. So it's like, this horn's so sweet, it's the sugar. But I wish I had thought of that. But it's copper plated, so it's a beautiful horn.
Right.
Copper, and the copper does stuff, but it's lacquered on top. So raw brass I hate because it makes your hands smell. I mean, that sounds stupid, but acoustically, raw brass and gold plate are probably the two best.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. That was a longer answer. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
We just lost 400 people. They just all fell asleep. So.
Well, you know how gearheads are.
Oh, yeah.
They've probably been waiting for that all show long.
Yeah, they're like, what the hell? You guys talk some trumpet stuff.
Yeah.
Why are you talking about Michael Jordan? I mean, yeah.
All right,
by the way, here's a great book. I've
Okay.
got a great book recommendation for anyone out there. Speaking of Michael Jordan, it's a book called Relentless. I think David Glover, I'm not sure on the exact last name. It's somewhere in my house. It was written by MJ and Dwayne Wade's trainer.
Oh.
It's an amazing book, and it's a great book to read now about drive and passion, especially if anybody's not feeling it right now, which is, hey, if we don't have a gig, it's a really hard time to sort of stay motivated.
Right.
One thing that I've been doing to stay motivated is play violin etudes, and that will motivate you because man, trumpet stuff's not so hard when you play a violin piece. But check out that book. That's not my top book, but that is definitely a great book. And I love reading books on business and biographies as well. So.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What's your favorite quote?
That's an easy one. I'm going to take it a different direction.
That's a good quote. I like that one.
Charlie Parker. No. My favorite quote is easy. It's a Clark Terry quote. If you actually mean a term, imitate, assimilate, innovate. You know,
I use that one a lot.
I mean, it's like you want to like get to the John Coltrane level, but you listen to, there's a great box set of Coltrane, and there's a clip of him playing in the Navy band on alto, and he's playing Hot House, and he sounds like a really bad, watered down version of Bird. And like 3 years later, he's playing at Dizzy's band, and there's that famous picture of Bird and Diz at Birdland, and off to the side is Train. He's in that picture.
Really?
Although you only see Bird and Diz. There are versions where you see Train, and he's like staring at them like. So it's one of those things that, you know, people yelled at Miles for, you know, having Train in his band. They couldn't understand what he was doing. And yeah, maybe he was at times in his early career, he was stumbling bumbling, but they're my three greatest jazz musicians. And I don't even think you can debate this, to be honest, are Louis Armstrong, you know, the greatest of all time, you know, Charlie Parker and John Coltrane. Those are the big three. I mean, and if you wanted a Mount Rushmore, you can add Miles because of all the things that Miles did past even just music. But imitate, assimilate, innovate. And you can hear these great musicians. There's a great 3-trumpet battle in 1948, Metronome All-Stars, Dizzy, Miles, and Fats Navarro. And they're trading. And Miles talks about it in his biography, but everybody wanted to sound like Dizzy. So they start trading, and it's you even with Miles, it's really hard to tell the three apart.
Yeah.
Now I could tell Miles because he has a sweeter sound, and I could tell Fats because he's cleaner than Dizzy. Fats was an incredible trumpet player. That's Clifford Brown's idol. But they're all trying to sound like Dizzy.
Right.
So it's like, but you know, don't worry about the innovative state. Who knows when anybody will truly innovate, but you definitely need to, I can't tell you, man, like I would have students come in and they'd be like, check this out. This is so great. And they play a line. I was like, oh, that sounds like Charlie Shavers from 1939. And they're like, who's Charlie Shavers? And I was like, that's cool. I play it. And then they get really depressed. Because they're like, who's this cat? So
yeah. Well, I used to use that even in my martial arts studio.
Right.
I used to use that phrase a lot, you know, and it's the, you learn through imitation. That's how we're built to learn.
You're showing they do. Right?
Yeah. And then the assimilation, that's making it part of who you are.
Right.
But that's the thing, is that once it gets to that point, when something is truly assimilated and is part of who you are, you cannot help but to innovate.
Right.
You actually have to hold innovation back. So yeah, I love that quote. I want to get that on a shirt.
Oh yeah, you'd sell at least 5 copies. I mean, it's
yeah, that's true. Okay, moving on. What's your biggest fear?
I don't really have. This might sound bad, but I don't really have fears. You know, because I've failed so many times. Okay, I will say my biggest fear is not being able to provide for my employees. That's probably my biggest fear, especially during now.
Okay.
Because hey, fine, but they have to come first because they're the lifeblood of my shop. They're the ones that are, while I get to do all the cool things like this, they're doing inventory. They're on the phones. They're tracking down orders. They're doing all the grunt work, you know, that I don't, they're boxing up stuff. They're cleaning stuff. They're doing, you know, it's like, it's so wonderful to finally see, you know, doctors and nurses getting actual, you know, praise. You know, we take these people so much for granted. I mean, it's like, and, you know, like, it's one of those things that it's like, if that's my fear, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I don't like to be feared.
Yeah.
And I don't like fear-based practice. I don't like any of that stuff. It doesn't matter. If you can't do it today, don't think about what it's going to be 6 months from now. Just do it.
Very good. All right. You could only have one superpower. What would it be?
I have thought about this. That's why um, I would think it's a tie. It's either a tie between Flash and, like the super speed or flying, then, life would be a lot simpler if you just get up and grab your case and fly to a gig.
Yeah, exactly.
So seriously,
And if you scheduled the breaks right, you could actually do 2 gigs at the same time.
Yeah. But you know how fast, if you could have super speed, you know how fast you could play on a bandstand? It's kind of, think about it.
Hey?
Like, Cherokee 700.
Yeah,
So,
let's do it. All right. Okay.
everyone explodes.
Okay. Here's a 2-part question.
Okay.
First one. What aspect of trumpet playing do you think is underrated?
Tone production. Everybody's so concerned with their damn technique that not nobody, but most people aren't trying to, and this is coming from an improvising perspective. Okay. What makes Clark Terry so unique? 2 things: his tone and his articulation. And sometimes those go hand in hand. Freddie, same thing. Clifford, same thing. Lee, same thing. Pops, Roy, all these great innovators. One, you could tell the highest compliment I could ever give any musician is I could tell they're playing in 2 or 3 notes. Think about Wynton. I mean, come on. There are a lot of people that bash Wynton's sound. And I'm just like, well, they're jealous. They're insecure. He's done all the work. They haven't.
Yeah.
But he has developed a completely unique and beautiful concept of what he wants to portray through his instrument. It's like, are you kidding? That's like that's the height of the mountain.
Yeah.
It's like you give Jimi Hendrix guitar to a kid. Are they going to sound like Hendrix because it's his guitar? I don't think. Well, they might. Well, what's this stringing? What's going on? But so that's definitely my number one. Take time for tone. I mean, seriously, think about what you want to sound like. Then you have to cater your whole practice routine to help develop that. Yeah. No doubt.
Okay, cool. All right, what do you think of the most overrated aspect of trumpet playing?
Multiple tonguing. Because if you think about it, I mean, as an improvising musician, I never have to double tongue. As an 85 to 95% of wind band music, unless it's a fast march, single tongued. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but I think if you look at the Arbin book, he kind of sort of put it there. I mean, this text is like full of like tonguing exercises, and then there's 20 pages on double tonguing. It's not. It's only like stressed because it's familiar or unfamiliar. Playing in C versus playing C sharp. When Alan Vizzuti was a kid, he learned to double tongue and single tongue at the same time. So for him, there's no limit because it was just like another thing to do. Yeah. We make it this new thing. So then we spend, okay, kid, go practice an hour on double tonguing. Well, if you only practice 1 hour once every week or whatever, fine. If you have music that you have to do it, then you build it into your practice routine. So you then approach it to like in a pragmatic way. So kitty, 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 kitty. Oh, wow, I'm double tonguing. Congratulations. So yes.
Okay. Oh, cool. All right.
Double tongue with a terrible tone. Guess what?
Yeah.
It's not going to matter.
Not going to matter. All right. What advice would you give your younger self about music?
Slow down. Easy.
From the Flash? The Flash is saying to slow down?
Yeah, I know, right? It's so do as I say, not as I do. No, when I was young, I played a lot. I played 12, 14, 15 hours a day in college. Literally. I had a key to the music building. I could get in at any time. I don't think that's probably allowed anymore, but this was a different time. But I never really practiced. And I'm a huge fan of slow fractional practice, what I call it. I can't play this caprice right now. Well, if I play it at 1/8 the tempo and sound really good, then it's just a matter of time before I shrink the distance between the phrase and it will speed up. But if I never sound good at the very beginning of my playing, guess what? You're now ingraining that to not sound good. So yeah, slow the down. So need Samuel L. Jackson to say that.
Yeah, exactly. Get Sam to say. So we got the question about music, but if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what's the biggest piece of advice you'd give yourself about life?
Listen, I mean, it's again, like even now, it's like, what's the, when Stephen Covey's book, right? I mean, seek first to understand and then be understood. It's completely applicable, but we're trumpet players. It's a very egocentric instrument. We're driven. We are possessed about being at the top of the mountain. And in some ways, that's a really great thing. The Darwinism. Oh, see, I can't even say it. You probably can say it better than me. Darwinian, yeah. I love that movie with, wasn't that the movie that David Bowie was in? Oh, wait, sorry. But that sort of nature of, of survival of the fittest. But the thing I like about moving here, I will tell you one thing. When I first moved here, I was at the grocery store and I was just getting a small thing, back in the days when toilet paper was plentiful on every shelf. Ooh. So, it's just think of those days. So, but I was at the register and the lady's ringing up my stub. Beep. That's a good thing. Where are you from? Beep. I had a Red Sox hat on, of course. So I said, "Oh, yeah. I live here now, but I'm from Boston." Beep. Oh, what brought you here? Beep. And my wife's job, and I own my own business. Not a big deal. Beep. So how do you like you here? And I'm like, and I said, "Listen, lady, I'm just here to buy my damn groceries. Stop." And then, now I get it. Like people want to be a part of your life, even if it's that one-time acquaintance that you meet. Slow down and listen to someone. Maybe you'll learn the best story you've ever learned or the best life lesson because you're willing to listen and not just like, "Hey, man, check this out. This is the shit." So, yes.
All right. Well, very good. Well, Trent.
Yes, sir.
As always, it is a pleasure talking with you. I miss the real life hang. Soon. It will happen. It will happen. But thanks so much for your time and your inspiration. I mean, you've been an inspiration to me, both in the stuff that you've posted on your social media accounts, and obviously anytime we do get to see each other, you just always bring a smile to my face, and listening to you play, it's always like it's inspiring and challenging. So just keep it up, man.
Keep on keeping on. That's another Clark. That's everybody out there. Keep on keeping on, man.
Keep on keeping on. So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you, follow what you're doing?
Easy. You can you can follow me on Instagram, just Austin Custom Brass, or Facebook, which is Austin Custom Brass. I haven't delved in. I started doing the Snapchat and started checking out TikTok, but I'm an old fogey, so I'm trying to see how relatable I can be to that. And of course, you can just, reach us anytime. Go to our site, austincustombrass.com. So.
All right. Well, thanks again. All right. So and best of luck to you, my friend. And for everybody else, thanks for spending.
Wife. Please thank your wife.
I will do that.
Seriously. I mean, thank you so much.
I will do that. So everybody, thanks for taking your time to be with us today. And as always, peace and slide grease. We are out.
Ciao.
Hey, thank you so much for hanging with us today. This podcast is all about creating connection through our mutual love for the trumpet life. I hope that you learned a few things about today's guest and had some laughs along the way. Don't forget to give us a review. We love those 5-star ratings. And please share this podcast with your friends. We want to see our hang grow for show. Have a suggestion for a future topic or a guest? Hit me up at thetrumpetgurus@gmail.com. Our opening theme was written and performed by Lexie Signor, and all other music comes courtesy of The Greatest Funeral Ever. So in the words of W.C. Handy, life is like a trumpet. If you don't put anything into it, you don't get anything out. So go out there and let your trumpet sound. And I'll see you at the next hang.